All right. Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple minutes before we get started.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we always try to think of how do we make these first couple waiting minutes at least interactive or exciting. So what better way than asking you a ton of really difficult questions while we give it a couple minutes. I'd ask you to just go through these questions that we have on the screen. They are really the basis of what we start asking Maximo customers when it comes to IoT projects. So we'll get started here in a couple minutes. But again, in the meantime, just take some time to consider these questions that are on the screen. And then we'll listen to Ray sing us a song.
I'm not prepared for that, Maddie. Thank you, though. Next time.
Next time.
We can just look at each other like the Brady Bunch.
I like it. It's the closest we can get to sitting at a booth together, looking at each other like we're the Brady Bunch, right?
That's right.
I considered getting one of our pop-ups out and putting it up behind me just to make it feel a little bit more.
I think that's
like
a great idea.
I know, missed opportunity. Sorry, everyone who's on. Next time. Right, we've got more people joining.
Michael, I do like the exit sign behind you. It's a sophisticated exit sign is my guess, or did you steal that from some building?
No, Ray, that is a sophisticated, smart exit sign.
Oh, that's cool. I like it.
All right, we'll give it just another minute or so. For those of you who are just joining now, while we wait for everyone to get in, we're just asking that you take a couple minutes to look through these questions that are on the screen and think about if you know these answers or not. They're a good starting point for an IoT project with Maximo. We'll get started in just another minute.
Michael, I did have a joke for you.
Yes,
you
sir.
Want to hear it? These two data scientists go into a bar. That's just the joke. Because really, data scientists wouldn't go into a bar. That's
right, that's stereotyping.
I think you can do better than that.
I don't know. I think I can.
All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Beyond the IoT Hype, 4 high-value use cases for Maximo. I'm Rachel Freeman. I'll be your moderator today. We just have a few quick housekeeping things to go over before we begin. Today's session will be recorded, and we will send out the link afterwards. Please stay on mute throughout the entire webinar, and if you wish to ask a question, you can post it in the Q&A panel. We will conclude today's session with questions, and if we don't get to your question during the session, we'll be sure to follow up with you directly afterwards. So let's get started. Leading today's session, we have Maddie Hawkins, Director of IoT Sales at Aquitas Solutions. Maddie joined Aquitas in 2014 with a sales and business development background and has been instrumental in establishing our leadership position and expansion into the IoT market. She's responsible for developing Aquitas's IoT software and services business through various strategic partnerships, market research, and customer engagement. Also joining for the demonstration portion of today's session is Michael Hayes, Director of Development and Lab Services at Aquitas. Michael brings 25 years of product development, systems integration, technical instruction, and leadership experience. For the last 17 years, he's worked with Maximo, first as a solution architect for IBM, and now as our chief architect behind our IoT solutions for Maximo. We also have Ray Michek today, one of our partners at Aquitas, and he'll be helping answer questions at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Maddie.
All right, thank you, Rachel. We're going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, oh, and I guess I missed a slide there where you were introducing us. So there we are, although if you see our pictures, at least I don't look exactly like that anymore. But really, thanks everyone for joining us today. I can't think of a better way to kick off 2021 than starting it with our Maximo community talking about IoT. And I think that really the best way to kick off this webcast is with these three cartoons, if you will. Not sure if you've seen these before or can relate to any of these three. They popped up throughout the year in 2020. But I think they just do a great job of setting the stage for why now, really more than ever, there is so much hype around IoT because it's really forced us, COVID's forced us to reevaluate everything about the way that we work and operate. So I thought this was a great way to kind of kick off this discussion. Our agenda for today, I'm going to spend about 25 minutes on slides, so bear with me. This is not my favorite medium for communication. I wish we were all together in person at some kind of user group, hopefully in Florida, somewhere nice and tropical. But what I'm going to do today is cover just a quick, brief background on Aquitas for those of you who are not familiar with us. We'll talk a little bit about this hype around IoT and then transition into how we can actually identify those real areas of opportunity, including these 4 common Maximo use cases that we're going to focus on. At that point, I'll hand it over to Michael Hayes, as Rachel mentioned, to demonstrate those use cases. And at the end, we'll wrap up with some next steps and Q&A. So with that, let's talk about Aquitas. We are a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. We were founded in 2006 and based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we're really active in the Maximo community as a longtime IBM business partner, focusing really on all things Maximo, which in recent years has included a very heavy focus on the role of IoT, which has earned us a lot of industry recognition as experts when it comes to Maximo and IoT, as you can see on the screen here, most recently being named for the 3rd year in a row to the CRN IoT Innovators List, which we're very proud of. We also do work with Maximo customers across industries from manufacturing, utilities, oil and gas facilities. But a point I want to make here is that the use cases that we're focusing on today can really easily be applied across industry, regardless of where you work, because we're addressing maintenance problems. So before we get into the real content here, I want to start out just with a quick poll. I want you to think about, and Rachel's going to launch a poll here. I want you to rank the priority of IoT to your business today. So let's take Rachel, if you don't mind launching. Take a few seconds to answer this poll.
Just give it a couple more seconds. Looks like majority of people are voting.
And hopefully this ends up the way I'm thinking it will. We'll see. This is why I love doing these polls. All right. Are we ready to see the results?
Yes.
And I am not able to see the poll results. So if you can quickly explain them, Rachel.
Okay, it looks like 41% of people, most people said 4, so it's a higher priority. 15% of people said it's a high priority, 5. And then 21% of people said 3, 21% of people said 2, and 3% said it's a low priority.
So those are some really interesting results, because already I think that, well, you'll see in just a second here. Before I get into my next slide here, I want you to humor me. Think about that same question, and if you answered it 5 years ago, how would your answer change? And my assumption is that if we look back to around 2016, that really the answers would be far skewed to the left here, around the 1s and 2s. But then again, if you think the same question 5 years from now and how that answer changes again, it honestly looks like we're closer to getting to this point already. I'm impressed with all of you guys that are attending today. That's really fantastic to hear. But that 5 years from now, it's going to skew even further to the right, that it is one of the highest priority things for industrial businesses. So it just goes to show the growth of this area with Maximo and IoT. So thank you for your participation. That was fantastic. So let's get started and talk a little bit about this hype, and that's really created a lot of information around how and why companies should start embracing digital transformation. So I guess the first point that I really want to make is that the hype, and I put quotes around it, hype, is here for a reason, because it really is a huge opportunity for industrial organizations. So as McKinsey predicts here, IoT is going to have an impact between $4 and $11 trillion by 2025. I mean, that's huge. And to asset-intensive industries, industrial organizations, the opportunities and benefits that we can achieve with IoT are even bigger. I'd say from this Morgan Stanley automation world, industrial automation survey, that's a mouthful, it shows the benefits that range from reducing downtime, maximizing asset utilization, reducing costs, just to name a few. And I wanted to include this graphic because I think it maps very closely to what we've been hearing from our Maximo customers when they're telling us as far as what they want to get out of an industrial IoT solution. So, what does this really mean for Maximo users? All of those benefits are great, but how do we actually achieve this? So the first thing is we know that we need to forget the bathtub curve. This is the idea that asset failure rates are high in the beginning and the end of an asset life. The reality is that 82% of failures are in fact random, which, as this ARC advisory group quote points out, that the random failure pattern creates a particularly significant opportunity to improve operational performance and achieve higher reliability and business process automation. And that's a really key thing there. So let's talk about that opportunity. In order to really reduce costs and achieve those benefits that we talked about, we need to reduce the demand for maintenance overall and extend the asset life. And we do that by moving from reactive to proactive and eventually predictive and even prescriptive maintenance. So with IoT, what we're really trying to do is identify a failure as early as possible so that we can fix it. But the problem is, where most people still operate today, is once you discover a failure, it's too late and we're stuck in this reactive state. So what IoT is enabling us to do is operate further along that curve line so that that failure point is further out. And in order to move up that PF curve, we need to go through this cycle of creating a physical digital physical loop that you see here. I wish I could take credit for this, but it's great from Deloitte University. But this is really how we start cutting through the hype, is understanding where you can capture that asset information from the physical world that can be analyzed digitally to help us understand how and when we need to physically respond to those assets. And to see that from a Maximo perspective, this is a high-level framework of what that physical digital, this is why I didn't come up with it, obviously, I can't say it, physical digital loop looks like. So we've got our critical assets and data sources on the left coming from SCADA systems, historians, sensors, PLCs, and we're monitoring different things like temperature, vibration, for example, and we've got Maximo. And the question's always been, it's not new, how do we get that information to drive action in Maximo in an intelligent way? And for us, that answer is ThingWorx, and you're going to see ThingWorx in the demonstration today in the integration of Maximo. But again, what this does is create that loop so we can first gather all of those silos of information from the physical world to ThingWorx, or an industrial IoT platform where we can analyze it and identify when things are not just unique but problematic, and then automate that response from maintenance through the creation of a work order in Maximo to then go back and address those assets. So again, creating that physical loop. There we go. That was a little bit better. So let's dive into the actual use cases that do that. And I do want to start by highlighting this customer quote from an existing IoT customer. It says, a lot of times maintenance involves technicians going out into the field and inspecting equipment. But in reality, it's not as efficient as the equipment just telling us what the problems are. And I could not agree with that more. And hopefully all of you listening today agree with that quote, because most of these use cases are focused around just that. Where can we make maintenance easier, optimize labor, let the machines tell us when we need to respond to them and how, so that we can work smarter and more effectively. So the first use case is this ability to automate the creation of a work order in Maximo based on real-time asset data. So it's really the most common ask and requirement that we hear in our discussions of IoT projects. And time and again, when we're talking about current processes and I ask how a work order is created today, the answer is typically, when and if someone identifies a failure, then they go and enter in a service request or work order with failure information, which is typically not much. Asset failed, whatever it is. So the focus here is really to eliminate that need for a human to identify a problem and for that to trigger the need for an action. So instead, we're automating that whole process. And beyond that, as Michael's going to show you in this demo, we can also automate different value add things like adding priority, job plans, failure codes, safety plans, labor resources required. And one of my favorite features, I think, is also including a snapshot of the conditions of the asset at the time of the alert or failure in the long description so that the technician has information in their hands to be able to troubleshoot faster and speed up the time to repair. So the second one is automated meter readings. And I would also say virtually every single IoT conversation that we've had with Maximo customers over the last 12, 16 months, even if they're not using Maximo Meters yet, has included the desire to automate meter readings. So typically that data is already being collected somewhere like a historian, and we want to connect that data in order to automate the collection of those meter readings. So through our integrated solution, we've simplified the process of setting up and tagging and automating those meter readings so that those that previously may have been taken manually or even not at all are now automated. So for many, this is actually, I'd say, one of the easiest starting points, at least from the conversations that we've had, again, over the last year or so. All right, two more. These final two use cases really focus on the digitizing and automating of processes, and they're unique in that they deal with non-connected asset data. So in this example in particular, we had a customer who was sending oil samples out from gearboxes to a third party, and they'd receive a CSV file back with results which would indicate whether the samples were clean, dirty, contaminated, whatever the result was. And someone had to physically take the time to analyze that report and then create the corresponding work orders in Maximo. So what you're going to see is how we built that intelligence to easily upload the file and automatically kick off the work order, which really ultimately cut the time needed to analyze and create the work from hours down to potentially seconds, as you're going to see from Michael in just a minute here. But the key is this is where we're able to leverage non-connected asset data in an intelligent way. So when we think about IoT, everyone mostly goes right to sensor data. But the reality is that there are ways to intelligently use both connected and non-connected data to more intelligently drive action and improve response time. And this is one of those ways. And then this is the last example, or what we call round sheets, or some people call them field sheets. Excuse me. But regardless of what you call them, most maintenance organizations still do some form of manual data collection using some form of paper round sheet that requires technicians on a scheduled basis, whether it be daily or weekly, to go out and check some type of condition and record that value. It's an extremely inefficient process if you're familiar with it, not only requiring the unnecessary labor hours, but most of the time those paper sheets end up either getting filed away or need to later be keyed into another system. It causes delays in response time, and it also leaves open a lot of room for human error in the actual data collection. So instead, in these scenarios where we have no way of connecting to this data, we can essentially just recreate those paper round sheets digitally to enable the improved data collection and the quality of that data, which then, again, immediately makes that data available for analysis and action, just like it's any other connected data source, to be able to trigger alerts and warnings in real time. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Michael Hayes now, who's going to show you a demonstration of each of those 4 use cases. I know I went through a lot very fast, so he's going to really let you see what that looks like in real time. Michael?
Oh, thanks, Maddie. Hello, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Rachel, Maddie, are you able to see my screen okay?
Yep, I can see it. Although I
Okay.
cannot see your demo motor box, if that's supposed to be it.
No, not yet.
Okay, perfect.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So hello, everyone. And as Maddie had mentioned, today we're going to demonstrate the Aquitas Team Accelerator, which with the 4 different use cases that will help really just drive service requests and work orders. So let's first I'll go, as Maddie had talked about, and discuss our connected maintenance, our connected assets. So let's go ahead and go into our asset advisor. And we're going to pick what we call as our motor demo. Now, in our motor demo, what you're going to see is that we have what we call connected, and we actually call this our Allen Bradley demo motor unit. And we're collecting different types of data, such as we have our 3 axes of accelerometer for vibration. We have humidity as well as temperature, and our load and our current. And one of the things that I wanted to show you today is that we're going to create what we call as a recipe. Because as we're looking at these different elements or these different sensors that are on this motor, we're going to create a recipe that says, well, hey, if the motor current and if the load is number 2, and if the RPMs are at a specific level and the motor is running, if all of these conditions, I want to monitor them. And I want to be able to see whether or not the current is affected, or is it reaching a certain threshold that could indicate a problem. So in this particular scenario, that's exactly what we're going to do. I created a recipe, and we're going to take a look at, as we run the demo, to see if we have a situation as I just described. The motor demo, you'll see over here on the right-hand side. This is the live demo, and you can see it behind me as well, next to the exit sign. And it is our PLC demonstration, and it is providing this information into our solution. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. Now, because of my head canceling headphones, it's really loud actually here in my lab, but with my head canceling headphones, you may not hear it, but you will see some of the green lights go on and the yellow lights go on. When there's 2 yellow lights, that indicates that I got a level 2 and a level 1. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. And at the same time, let me go over to our work orders, and we'll turn this on. Now, this is what I did want to show you, is that this work order that we're looking at here, and let's go ahead and add the asset num in here. And okay, is that we're going to be able to see work orders being generated in this system based on those conditions. So let me go ahead and turn it on. And I'm going to do level 1. And I'll do level 2. And we're going to sit in here in the level 2 condition for a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my levels off again. And turn the motor off. Okay. Let me go ahead to full screen here. So when you look at this, I just really want to explain what really took place. What we have as part of our solution is that it isn't just necessarily looking even at the recipe by itself and saying, well, if this and this and this if all these things are true, go ahead and create a work order. There's some also additional logic that we put into the solution that also looks, and it goes to Maximo. It's a 2-way integration. It goes to Maximo. It says, first of all, is this asset even active? If it is active, or if it's not active, then don't create a work order. And then, of course, this is configurable. We also go over and we check and see if there are any open work orders for this particular alert already, because we do not want duplicates. So we'll go over and we'll check that out. And if all of these conditions are okay, then that's the only time we want to create a work order. And that becomes very critical. So this is the work order in Maximo 2957. So let's go ahead and go over to Maximo, take a look at that. And we're going to look at that here in Work Centers. And you'll see that this is 2957. This was created. We have some other work orders that we have done on previous demos and tests, but let's go into this one. As we look at this work order, as Maddie had mentioned, one of the things you're going to see up on the very top right-hand corner, and I apologize if it's kind of small to see, but it gives some information some additional information about what took place, as well as what was the snapshot condition of the motor, as well as the environment around. Because this is completely configurable, and you can put information in here even of other assets. So if you have related assets, that let's say that this pump is performing a service too, then you can even see information about how, when this pump is in this condition, how it's affecting other assets. But for example, here also you'll see, if you can read this, it says the motor current had reached 5.0. It was my threshold, and it reached the 5.1.3. But if you read here, it says right here, it says it happened 0 times in the past 2 hours. Now, this is completely configurable. And the reason why we have this in here is I have it set right now that if it happens 1 time in the first 2 hours, go ahead and create the work order. And that's for the demo purposes. But we're seeing what our customers are doing is that they are configuring this, saying, you know what, I want to eliminate, false positives. I want to eliminate these, situations like startup time, or when the motor first starts up, yeah, the current's going to be a little bit higher. So what we'll do is, it's a configuration. When you create the recipe, it says, hey, I want to only create a work order under all those circumstances that we mentioned before, and if those conditions happen more than 3 times in 2 hours. And if it happens more than 3 times in 2 hours, then we want a work order to create it. And again, that is completely configurable. You can have it be 1 time in 1 hour. You can have it be 100 times in 24 hours. It's completely configurable based upon your what you're trying to do, and when do you want a work order created. As Maddie had mentioned, when that recipe is created, as part of that, we want to specify certain things that go into Maximo, such as what is the job plan? Because once we have the job plan in there, then we can go ahead and already know exactly what we want the maintenance person to do, because we already understand the situation based upon the recipe that we have, as well as our work type. We can change that if you want a different work type, and as well as other aspects such as your failure codes and your problem codes as well. All those can be part of what you want to send to Maximo. And also the way that we built the integration into this as well, if you have some additional information that is specific to your business, that information can be sent over as well. Okay, so that is number 1 as far as our connected maintenance. Let's jump into our second scenario, and that is our Maximo Meters. Now for Maximo Meters, I'm going to go over to standard Maximo and outside of the work centers. And let's go to this asset. Let's bring up this particular asset. Oops. Hit enter. There we go. And let's look at our meters. Now, these are the meters that I have set up. As you can see, there are only 3 of them I have currently active. And the one that we're going to see today is we're going to take a look at temperature in Celsius. Now, this is a gauge one. Now, you're probably asking yourself the question, well, why is it that you're doing both? Can't we just set up these type of meters just directly as a recipe and create work orders that way? And the answer is yes. But there are some things in Maximo's meter readings that it does very well, especially when we're talking about meters of type continuous. And the continuous meters are really good. They're like your oil change in your car. When you get up to a certain number of miles and you want to change the oil every 7,000 miles, then it will create a work order, and then it sets the counter back to 0. And Maximo does really well with that. The disadvantage of Maximo as well, from some examples, is just even with the gauge, is that you can only have one thing. So you can look at the temperature, you can look at the outlet pressure, but you can't add what other scenario or other sensors to it in basically in a recipe. So you can't say if the outlet pressure and this in here. It is just a single threshold. But otherwise, Maximo does a great job, and like I said, in doing it in the continuous. But we're going to look at the gauge just for the demonstration purposes. So let's head back over to our solution, and let's look at Maximo Meters. Now, when I bring this up here, what you're going to see is this is actually a duplicate. So part of the integration into Maximo, we go over to Maximo based upon the asset ID, and we bring over this information. And this information is live. It's constantly updating. So if I went in and I created a meter reading in Maximo and I came back over here, it would be here. Now, one of the great things is how do we make it simple when we want to connect a sensor or a meter to a meter reading and to have it automatically populate. Let me just go to, actually we can just go ahead and use the one we're going to use. When we click on this, this is all the Maximo information. It tells you the last time it was read yesterday, but this is the secret sauce, if you want to call it. This is what is really, really neat. Is you remember all those properties that I showed you before with the graphs that we are collecting for this motor? Well, those meters are right here. And you can go and you can select whatever one that you want to be in here. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and select the temperature. And once you've done that and you hit the update, that's all you need to do. You're done. At this point in time, right now you can see I have a scheduler. And in this scheduler, it just runs every so often. And it will go ahead and send it will send whatever the meter reading is at that point. It'll send it as a reading over into Maximo. So I want to go ahead, and I'm just going to have this button here, it says run now. And so I ran it. I'm going to run it. And okay, what is today? Today is the 6th at 13:29. So exactly a few seconds ago, it updated, and it updated it with a new value as far as what the temperature is for that demo motor. And you can see some of these others up here too that are running that I already had turned on, such as suction pressure. These were as well. That is how simple using the solution it is once you have connected assets of being able to bring this information. Now, I want you to keep in mind that we could also do properties from a non-connected, and that's our next scenario. So let's hop over to that. Go back. So now in a non-connected use case, we did, as Maddie had talked about, this an oil analysis. And in the oil analysis, it has more than one asset that we're dealing with. So that's why we're not picking a specific asset. But in this case, we're getting a CVS or a common delimited file and from the third-party vendor, and we're going to analyze it. And in this case, it's for our oil test. We're going to click it, open it. We're going to upload it. And as soon as it's uploaded, I can now say, analyze this oil. As soon as I hit the analyze the oil, what it has done is it's loaded it, and it's gone through, and we created another recipe, just like we did with connected, to look for specific problem codes. And in this case, we're looking for wear and dirt. And at this point in time, work orders, if everything is fits as part of that recipe, work orders are generated, just like it said with connected. What's interesting about this too is if we were getting information, even for meter readings, this would go in there, and we could actually have this go into a Maximo meter reading as well. So any information that we're putting into our team solution as data could be used to create work orders as well as feed Maximo meters. Okay, let's go to the fourth use case. The fourth use case is our manual entry. How can we go around, because it's inevitably in your plant or in your business, you have what we call round sheets, or you're going to have to do manual entry through some way. A lot of our customers have been doing this for years, and it's on a clipboard. And on the clipboard, they go through, they fill it all out, and then someone has to manually enter it in. So we made that a little bit easier by they could either do it on their computer, their laptop, or they can actually do it on their mobile device. And this is what these field sheets are talking about. And we're going to go to Area 1 field sheet. And we're going to go Area 1 and look at inspections. And we're going to look at this. This is giving you a list of all of our assets that are around this particular pond. Now, this is a cooling pond for like a nuclear power plant, and they have a lot of different sensors and a lot of different gates and valves that they need to check and inspect every so often. So this is a list of those, and they may have a truck or even a boat in some cases where they're going in the lake itself in order to get these measurements. But as simple as this is they bring this up into their tablet. They go in and say, okay, we're starting at number 1, and they type in, okay, it's 12 today on this one. It's 6 on this one. It's 8 on this one. And then even when they stop at this point, they hit update. And you can see over here that these previous readings was just updated. Again, going back to what I was saying, this data was entered in manually, but the team solution or the team accelerator it will behave just like it did if it was connected. So a recipe is triggered and looked at, and a work order is generated, or this information could be sent over and it could populate a meter reading within Maximo. Okay, that's the end of the demonstration. So I'll turn the time over to Rachel and Maddie at this time.
Yep, let me go ahead and share my screen again, Michael. Thank you for that. Let's see. Oh, you need to stop sharing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Let's see. And then let me share my screen again real quick. Let's see. Rachel, can you confirm if this is showing?
Yes, I see your screen.
Perfect. Okay, so yep. Again, thanks, Michael, for the demonstrations. I mean, really, the whole webcast, the point of this was to talk about how we move beyond the hype. So here is a real way that we're offering you to get started. The solution that Michael demonstrated can be deployed today. All of those demos you saw were using our ThingWorx Enterprise Asset Management or Team Accelerator for Maximo, which out of the box includes the capabilities to support all of these 4 use cases. So if you're not ready to fully jump into the deep end just yet, a great way to do this is with a proof of concept that we offer for just about $8,000. And as an added bonus, if the proof of concept is successful, which we're confident it will be, and yet doing a complete implementation, we credit that $8,000 back to you on the end. So it's a low risk, high reward opportunity for you to get started and start seeing real results. Also, if you have other ideas that we didn't talk about today, let us know. We're constantly listening to the needs of our Maximo community to guide our IoT development roadmap. There's a chance it might already be in our roadmap for something that's going to come out this year. So let us know. We want to hear from you. We can only be successful if we're actually addressing the needs of our customers. So with that, I will go ahead and open the floor up for any questions. I really appreciate everyone for joining today. And hope that you found the webcast valuable and you have some ideas of how you can actually start doing things within Maximo, getting beyond the hype. So, Rachel, are there any questions that came in on the chat?
Yes.
Or does anyone have any questions?
So this is probably for Michael. Can you do location-based meters?
Yes, we can. In fact, the next release, we'll be able to do everything that you saw here that was asset-based, we'll be able to do with location-based.
Great. Okay. And then
that's a good question.
What if our controls team won't let us get to the data?
Yes, this is a common. This is a common question that we have, and a common problem that we've come across with some of the customers that we've had now. And we've worked very well with the IT team as well as our OT team in order to completely separate the 2 systems through firewalls, through diodes, and other methods, so that the operations side is still secure. And we've had great confidence and great success in fulfilling all the security requirements necessary for each customer.
Yeah, I would just add to that real quick, Michael, that, one thing that we've also done when that's really one of the main concerns or pain points in moving forward with an IoT solution is doing a proof of connectivity. Outside of just looking at the use cases, we understand the value. Let's prove that we can actually put an architecture in place that meets all of your security concerns from your controls team or elsewhere. Any other questions?
That's all.
That was easy. Well, again, my contact information is on the screen. With any comments, feedback, or questions after the fact, please do feel free to reach out directly or visit our website. We're here to answer any questions and continue to support our Maximo community when it comes to IoT efforts. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.